Hi, I'm Ann Rieselbach, the Architecture League's Program and Membership Director. Welcome to this online Distance Edition studio visit hosted by Marlon Blackwell Architects, who are based in Fayetteville, Arkansas. We'll hear from the team, including founding partner and design director Marlon Blackwell and Adi Blackwell, partner and creative director. This online insider's view of their practice reinvents the League's in-person New York City-based after-hours studio visits. We began these virtual visits to offices and building sites out of necessity during the pandemic and found that after we returned to monthly in-person after-hours gatherings for League members, we missed the opportunity to range further afield to visit practices like Marlon Blackwell Architects, whose approach to form making are so formally and environmentally tied to place. Whether online or in person, after-hours programs provide the opportunity to both see recent and current projects, as well as to get a sense of the studio culture, to learn about where and how firms are working. Today's program will be introduced and moderated by Matt Shaw. Matt is a New York-based author, editor, and columnist. He recently completed the book American Modern: Architecture Community, Columbus, Indiana, which surveys that city's remarkable architectural legacy, and has written for a wide range of publications, including the New York Times, The Guardian, Pinup, Art Forum, and the Architectural Review. Matt also teaches critical writing and media studies at the University of Pennsylvania's Stuart Weitzman School of Design, the Cooper Union, and SCI-Arc. Following the presentation and Matt's conversation with the firm's principals, the discussion will be open to all attendees. You can pose your questions in the Q&A section, not the chat section, please, the Q&A section. And before we begin, a quick thanks to the League's sponsors. This program is supported in part by the New York State Council on the Arts with the support of the Office of the Governor, the New York State Legislature, as well as by the League's members, whose annual support makes all of our programs and events possible. Please visit archleague.org for further information about membership and the League's upcoming members events, such as this season's recently announced in-person after-hours lineup, as well as the soon-to-be-announced in-person session of Architecture, Planning, and International Law, which is open to everyone. Our online publication, Urban Omnibus, is accessible through the website, as well as videos of past programs. Finally, towards the end of this program, information will be posted in the chat section for League members who are eligible to receive CEUs for attending this program. So Matt, handing it over to you.
Thanks, Anne. Thanks to the League for inviting us to do this talk, and thanks to Marlon and Ati for having me here. And thanks to everyone for joining in the chat. I first met Marlon and Ati actually fairly recently in 2021, I think, at a kind of a fancy brunch by New York Central Park. But it seemed like we had met many times before. And in a way, we kind of had. I had studied their work back in the 2000s when we looked at their early projects in school, such as the Porch Dog and the Keenan Tower House. These kind of idiosyncratic projects that had this rebellious spirit. It was imbued with the legacy of modernism, but it was somehow layered with meaning and tectonic effects that seemed to be kind of from another place altogether. And from my drafting table, yes, my drafting table, it was intriguing, but it would take many years and half dozen trips down to Northwest Arkansas before I felt that I had really understood it. And I've been lucky enough to have worked in, visited, or driven by half the projects on Marlon's website, actually, exactly 18 out of 36. So who was this up-and-coming architect who'd been making these interesting buildings in the South? Northwest Arkansas is such an unexpected place for a young architect to get a footing. Yet, as we will see, it's a place rich with design legacy, from E. Fay Jones, Edwin Durrell Stone, to today's architects who are working there. And in these small towns, we can kind of see the effects of small projects much more clearly. And architecture can really come to define a place, rather than being just another layer in the history of a big city. And I think that goes for people, too. Marlon's presence in Northwest Arkansas and even the South can't really be understated. He's had an enormous impact on the design culture of the region, including as the dean of the architecture school at the E. Fay Jones School of Architecture at the University of Arkansas, but also as a man about town in Fayetteville. It's a real pleasure to drive around with Marlon and just see the different people he meets and some of the connections he makes down there that have had such an impact, between the school, local businesses, including Walmart, and other prominent figures in the community. And it's also amazing to see how integrated in the community they are from their office, which is located right off the town square in Fayetteville. And so I ended up teaching a course on architectural criticism as well at the University of Arkansas after Marlon had invited me down, as well as Dean Peter McKeith. And, teaching in that Marlon Blackwell designed architecture school was a really neat experience. It's one of the more prominent buildings on campus, and it really looms large. It has generous spaces and thoughtful overlapping places that make for a lively and pleasant place to teach. All members of the community kind of come together there, and you can tell the building really unites them around this shared cause of architecture. And then also just being in the region of Northwest Arkansas, you can really see how the place also has affected Marlon. There's several towns down there: Bentonville, Springdale, Fayetteville, Rogers, and they've all grown quickly together into kind of a exurban rural version of the Northeast corridor along I-95. And it starts to make sense why Marlon likes barns and standing seam metal siding. And it's apparent why so many of his buildings have these kind of strong profiles, like billboards attracting attention from passing cars. The farmland, industrial sheds, and big box retail that dots the landscape, really helps to define the work of Marlon Blackwell Architects, whether it be a medical building, a school, a small church, a parking garage. They're all designed with the kind of touch of modernism and artfulness one might find in a big international city, but somehow they feel right at home there. So I'm excited to hear more about what's next in this virtual studio visit today. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Marlon, Ati, and their wonderful team in Fayetteville. So thank you.
Hey.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Very, very kind of you. I think we'll get ready to start and just share a little bit here and get things kicked off. We're really thankful that you're here, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Marlon Blackwell. This is my partner, Ati.
Hi.
And we'll be kind of sharing this along with our firm, a little bit of what we do. And we really thank you for tuning in, and we're excited to be here and to have the opportunity to share more about our firm, Marlon Blackwell Architects. And along with us today, you'll be hearing from our three senior associates, Curtis Weatherby, Spencer Curtis, and Michael Davis. Each of them brings a different perspective and skill set to the firm, and they will be sharing with you all the different radical thoughts that frame some of our past and current projects. Now, in the place, of the place, for the place, and sometimes necessarily out of place. We say that a lot. Our studio is rooted in Fayetteville, Arkansas for the last 33 years, where urban, rural, and natural conditions meet. This intersection informs how we think about scale, material, and civic responsibility. And first, what we want to do is share more about our region of Northwest Arkansas itself and its wonderful vitality and dynamic character. So we made a little video for you, and I'll talk over that. So Northwest Arkansas is set within the Ozark landscape of rolling hills, wooded ridge lines, winding valleys, and open farmland. And it's home to major institutions like Walmart, the University of Arkansas, and Tyson Foods. And yes, we like to joke the chicken is our state bird. We wanted to highlight the cities that form the heartbeat of the region, starting with Eureka Springs, places like Thorncrown Chapel, where architecture is inseparable from the landscape. Across the land, mountain biking, fishing, rivers, lakes, caves, and hiking trails shape everyday life, while Bentonville anchors a growing cultural center. Together, this is a place where art, nature, architecture, wellness, and education are closely intertwined and even collide. With the opening of the Crystal Bridges Museum of Art in 2011, Northwest Arkansas experienced a cultural altering moment. Art, design, and hospitality became central to the region's identity and a catalyst for growth. Continuing through the cities of Rogers and Springdale, the region is also home to another global headquarters, J.B. Hunt Trucking. Together with Walmart and Tyson Foods, these industries have shaped Northwest Arkansas's growth vitality for years. The presence of the Walton Family Foundation through the Foundation's Design Excellence Program, an initiative that prioritizes high-quality architecture, landscape, and public space design, has really become a driver of community life and civic vitality. We're incredibly lucky to call Fayetteville home. It's been ranked among the top 10 best places to live in the country for 8 consecutive years, and it's shaped by a strong public university, weekly farmer markets, extensive trail networks, and a close-knit civic culture. So we love opening our doors to guests, and we're grateful to invite you into our office virtually. So without further ado, we hope you enjoy our little virtual visit and tour of our office.
Hey, good morning. How y'all doing? Welcome to the office of Marlon Blackwell Architects here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. We decided to have our own building, invest in that, and a lot of things you can do with paint, so we just decided to paint the whole building white and then to paint stripes. We kind of create some little graphic character, and so we really like elements, archetypal elements, windows, doors, columns, things like that. Really try to animate the storefront with all the models and the different things that we're doing. Randy's normally here checking everybody in and out, but she's in the Monday meeting along with everybody else, so I'm a little late for the Monday staff meeting. Hey, everybody, don't mind us. Kind of a multi-purpose place, and as you see, models and drawings, books. We have 3 different libraries. Everything's available for folks to have or to check out. One of the things that's real important to us too is to have local artists kind of throughout the office, and everybody confronts this bear when they come in. This is it's a long story. I won't tell it over this, but I wrestled a bear when I was in high school, and a disastrous effect. But it was a good lesson. Was you have to take on all challenges. Ati is here, my partner in life, and the real boss here is Ati. These are, if you're wondering, these are Ati's chickens. Here she has a whole flock of these chickens, our state bird, we like to say, here in Arkansas.
What about my plant?
Oh, and your plants. These are wonders of nature. These started as little tiny seedling plants.
Yes.
And then I don't know how you did it, but you got them to grow really large.
Yeah.
Workspace here takes at least 2, but believe it or not, I know where everything is, so that's the main thing. So our hinge conference room here that leads us into our big studio, the grand studio. So this is the big space in which everybody works, and Hall of Fame, so to speak, and another library here. This is primarily with practice matters, bones and insects and turtles, and just kind of remind us of where we are, maybe a little bit about where we're going. So another conference area here.
Our studios, designers one open big office. We didn't have any corner offices or anything like that. Wanda and I sit in the open. It's like everybody else. I think it's promotes collaboration.
The process is always sort of in front of us, and we're always enmeshed in it. Yes, these are what would you call these? Our adventures in camo. We still do most of all of our models by hand. Different sort of light studies for light chimneys. Usually have 2 or 3 people working away on the models, and just really helping us realize the spatial and formal implications of what we're doing.
Also messy, like a storage.
Well, like a workshop.
Yeah.
It's our workshop. So we'll go upstairs.
This is my material library. We store a lot of our material here, not only for building material. I like to be able to touch and feel and have the actual color and texture evaluated. So we use this a lot.
So this is what we call the bear cave here. This is our office lounge, where we come up and, on a Friday afternoon, or a place to just hang out. But anyways, that's a whole upstairs mezzanine here, and of course, kind of a nice place to really enjoy the workspace more. But it's really the upper mezzanine. You can see up here, this is all our archives, which we get through the other room, but all of that is sort of out in the open, the models. Ubiquitous break room. Now we have great coffee here in the office, do we not? Anyways, but the break room, and a lot of things happen here, a lot of conversations, and when we have our kind of office lunches or whatever, this is where everything happens here. Should be bigger, but maybe one day. This sort of fits us in a lot of ways, just who we are as both architects and I think as people, and I mean that in a collective way. So, yeah, anyways, welcome to our office.
Okay, well, we hope you enjoyed that. And now what I'd like to do is just show a bit more about the form before we talk about some of the projects and some of the philosophical things around those. When it comes to the foundation of the firm, it really comes down to our values, our core values. We value continuity, craft, and sustained relationships with clients and the communities that we work in. While rooted locally, our work reaches out nationally across the United States, each project responding to its specific context while drawing on these shared values. We'll show more about these values here in a moment. Naturally, our work spans civic, cultural, educational, healthcare, and infrastructure projects at a wide range of scales. Our work also extends internationally through cultural projects, exhibitions, and research. This includes the U.S. Department of State, commissioned American Embassy work in Africa, South Africa, and South America, where we contributed to secure diplomatic facilities that balance technical rigor with cultural sensitivity, expanding our understanding of architecture's civic role across global contexts, from small-scale projects to complex institutional buildings. From our origins, the early projects established an approach that's focused on clarity and restraint and a slight weirdness in some cases. Now, our local projects allow us to stay closely connected to our community and the opportunity to work at many scales and different program types right in our own backyard. And our national projects expand our practice into new climates, cultures, and building types, strengthening our ability to adapt while remaining consistent with our values. Now, many of our projects interpret familiar forms in new ways. This approach helps buildings feel both recognizable and specific to their place. We like to say it's the task of recreating strangeness, and that's what we like to do. Across our work, we're interested in transforming common things into the uncommon, finding architectural potential in familiar forms and materials. We're drawn to everyday typologies and the potential they hold. The essence of our radical practice lies in transforming those familiar forms into architecture with renewed public meaning. Now, for us, radical practice is not about being avant-garde or revolutionary for its own sake. It's really about being fundamental, rooted in the original meaning of the word radicalist, or from the root. It reflects an ethical, social, and intellectual commitment to the common good, grounding our work in the essential values, needs, and context of the communities we serve. In a time when this approach is increasingly rare, we see it as both necessary and enduring. You can explore our fundamental ideas more deeply in our monograph, Radical Practice, available on Amazon. A little bit of shameless self-promoting here. Ati.
Because these are the people behind Marlon Blackwell Architects. Our studio is made up of incredible designers with diverse skills and shared commitments. We are intentional about spending time together beyond the work itself, from monthly happy hours and lunch and learns and summer parking lot cookouts and shared meals like chili cook-off, soup day, and Thanksgiving lunch. There's also playful spirit in it all, with friendly competition around Halloween costumes, ugly sweater contests, AIA Arkansas bowling tournaments where we're usually near the bottom of the leaderboard.
We're not good.
And an annual Top Golf event each October that we do to support the Single Parent Scholarship Fund of Northwest Arkansas. We celebrate building opening, publication releases, award ceremonies, local lecture series. We encourage involvement with the University of Arkansas by getting involved with teaching, design reviews, job shadowing, site visit, mentoring, everything. We love any chance to celebrate all milestones together, no matter how big or small. In May of last year, 2025, we took the whole office to Venice, Italy for the opening day celebration of the Porch, an architecture of generosity at the U.S. Pavilion at the Venice Biennale, where we were the lead designers for the project's exterior porch edition. We will share more about that broader team later in our project highlights. We see travel and site visits as an essential part of learning and experiencing architecture firsthand. In that spirit, we regularly take the office on trips to visit places and projects, and we also enjoy hosting others, such as welcoming AIA groups, university student visits, organizations like Urban Land Institute, which we just hosted in our office this past December. We also believe strongly in the importance of giving back. Our effort includes establishing the Arkansas Delta Scholarship to support students from underserved Delta communities in pursuing higher education. We also always host NOMA student interns each summer in our office to help broaden access to the profession and supporting the community free health clinic throughout our annual charitable giving among a few organizations that we support. So just a few of the ways we invest in the communities that we serve. We are also so excited to announce the launch of our new website, going live this weekend, the weekend of January 24th to the 25th. The site was designed in collaboration with Pentagram New York City. Big thanks to Eddie Opara and his team. Be sure to check it out and connect with us on Instagram, also at Marlon Blackwell Architects. Now I'll pass the mic to our associate, Curtis Weatherby.
Curtis.
Thanks, Ati. We see all of our work as connected as a part of a single overarching meta project. Every project, large and small, can be viewed through this lens. It begins with two foundational beliefs. One, architecture is an act of public good, where a full design process will benefit every and any program, place, or project. And two, that the best design solutions do more with less. When architecture is working at its highest level, 1 and 1 does not equal 2, it becomes 3, 5, or 7. Different systems and elements don't merely add up, they amplify and resonate with one another. The singular resolved design will always carry the day. As Ati discussed the importance of culture in our office, our process is also fundamentally about our people. We work with trust, shared authorship, and accountability within our studio and with our partners. Each member of our team brings unique perspectives and skills to the table. Our design process is a meritocracy. If it's a good idea, it goes forward, and the best idea wins, no matter the source. Our values guide how we operate every day. We put people before product, building meaningful relationships throughout design and construction. We choose excellence before ease. We don't give up just because it's harder than we thought it might be. We're curious to ask and listen before we judge input. We see clarity over speed. We never move forward without thinking it through. And we put project before pride. Our work is more than our own. It belongs to a wide team of collaborators, stakeholders, users, and the public at large. The relentless pursuit of these principles is our mission, our meta project. Every task, study, and every building is a link in that chain. Whenever possible, we prefer to work face-to-face, in person, on site, or around a table with roles of trace. In these places of focused collaboration, we aim to assemble a group of differing perspectives and backgrounds and work to have all parties deeply engaged in that process. This exchange challenges assumptions, reveals blind spots, and ensures the work responds meaningfully to its context, its users, and its constraints. This collection of images highlights some of the diverse tools that our staff have brought to us to use for exploration that are physical, digital, analytical, experiential. We're all generous in the office, each with different strengths, but as we work as small project teams and continually support each other when key skills are needed. With each new team member to the office, we discover a new tool or a new way to use an older one. For us, construction is not the end of design. It is design in and of itself. We use mock-ups and fabrication studies with careful and detailed observations of construction sequence, material tolerance, and craft to ensure that contractors and fabricators are practiced in the unique needs of coordination required to realize the ambitions and aspirations of each specific work, which we will now pivot to discussing in a few examples. Our first project is the Columbus, Indiana Air Traffic Control Tower, which has just begun construction. Working in a city with an active, rich, modernist legacy like Columbus, we knew this tower must do more. It needed to create a radical vertical statement. Columbus is a city of towers, civic, religious, and structural. These elements dot the skyline and mark both key urban spaces and are visible gateways into the city. We knew the control tower needed to speak to these same aspirations. The history of the tower of this airfield, first World War II military installation to its current modest incarnation, did not speak to those aspirations. So we studied formally, how could we express this bold difference and make a civic sculpture? Our wide range of formal exploration followed, from orthogonal to fluid, drawing from aircraft history, architectural precedent, and even Christmas story. You can see the fragile lamp there in the center. Slowly, the strategy evolved, merging fluidity, shifting volumes, and strong verticality. Standing at the edge of the airfield, the tower defines a threshold between movement and arrival, infrastructure and city. Its stainless steel facade and radius forms evoke both P-51 Mustangs and mid-century triumphs like Saarinen Gateway Arch. The east and west facades are defined by 8 serial vertical fins that wrap the tower's iconic form and emphasize its unique qualities both by day and when lit at night. They're heavily studied and optimized for both unitized offsite fabrication and lighting integration. Lighting strategies, which began as LED ribbons tracing the fins that presented installation and maintenance challenges, have been refined into a strategy of carefully placed and lensed light fixtures at multiple locations at both in-grade and interior to the building. While a typical control tower program is little more than a vertical shaft connecting to the observation cab at the top, here it is transformed with the addition of the briefing room, a space shown above that expands the floor plate sitting at the height of the existing tower, where the airport operators can host events to introduce guests to what happens in these generally mysterious and hidden environments, and give them an opportunity to occupy the space created between the fins. Columbus Tower stands as an example of how integrating public space and civic purpose can transform even the most technical and instrumental programs. We boldly reimagined a typology meant for viewing without being seen into a focus for public gathering. When completed, the bold figure of the tower will also host a laser projection display where everything from movies, events, and public art will intensify the radicality of this new tower. I'll now hand over to Spencer Curtis.
All righty. Thanks, Curtis. I'm going to be speaking about 2 projects here. The first one being the project that we did in Venice, Italy called Porch, an architecture of generosity. This project was created largely with a group of collaborators, and I'd like to introduce them. Starting with the commissioners, Peter McKeith, Susan Chen, and Rob Bigelow, alongside all the design partners, Julie Bardman of Dirt Studio, Ross Altheimer and Mara Rockcastle with 10x10, Stephen Burks Man-Made, and Jonathan Bolkins. Porch is a project we developed for last year's Architecture Biennale at the U.S. Pavilion. It takes on a contemporary infill condition, drawing from regional building traditions and shared human behaviors. Key design components that were studied and incorporated into the concept design were spaces like the stage, where performances, readings, and demonstrations happen, the gathering porch, a place to meet, share, and discover, and ancillary spaces for repose, seating, and swinging. All of these spaces and connections are covered by a large canopy that filters light, creating shade while also providing passive ventilation. Another challenge that we took as an opportunity was the importance to respect the nearby Israeli pavilion to the left and the Nordic pavilions to the right. We achieved this by raising the edges and shaping the soffit, which also helped create moments of compression and release while moving under and through the porch. We also studied the importance of using the existing U.S. Pavilion courtyard and morphing it into a fully contained gathering space for performances. As Marlon would like to say, where there is shade, there are people. Now, quickly, I'd like to speak about the construction of the built elements themselves. Using techniques MBA has learned over years, and from past projects such as a bike barn, the design was envisioned as a simple repetitive truss system hanging from 2 primary beams above that could be fabricated off-site and brought in. However, we learned from that the local Italian craftsmen didn't really quite have those techniques in their toolbox, and we were limited by the size of members that could be brought to site by boat. Luckily, we were partnered with an incredible contractor, Wolf Systems, who were able to take our creative vision and apply their local craft and techniques to create the structure you see here. This highlights the importance of collaboration even when you're thousands of miles apart. The result was a striking intervention that pulled people in from all over, including, as IT mentioned earlier, our whole staff being able to go visit the Porch project on the opening weekend of the Biennale. And from rendering to reality, the acceptance, use, and excitement of this space exceeded far beyond our hopes, especially when visual programming organized by the Momentary of Crystal Bridges was interactive in the space. This next image highlights the porch as a threshold, neither fully interior or exterior. It also highlights the materials such as the rammed earth, where our collaborators use local Venice soils to create bricks that the deck and conversation pits rest on. And lastly, the exterior intervention was only half of the overall Porch project. The interior condition, created by Jonathan Bolkins and the Porch commissioners, remain an open and shared space, reinforcing the idea of collective use. The space is filled with boxes that were created and curated by over 50 artists and architects with their interpretations of what Porch means. In the end, this project concludes as an example of how thoughtful collaboration can bring the feeling of the American porch all the way to historic Venice, Italy. Now, bringing you all the way back to Arkansas, and talk about this next project, and this is the Thaden School campus. The Thaden School is an independent school composed of multiple buildings on one campus, creating curated learning and gathering spaces. Located just south of downtown Bentonville, the site for the project was once home to Bentonville High School, where Louise Thaden attended in the early 1900s. Later, the site became home for the Benton County Fairgrounds as pictured, and remained in open space until 2016 when MBA was approached alongside our other design collaborators to master plan and design the new Thaden campus. One quick note on Louise Thaden, whom the campus is named after. She was an American aviation pioneer and the first woman to win the Bendix Trophy. To create such a campus, close and consistent collaboration between the design teams, school leadership, educators, students, community groups, and really everyone involved was vital to the project's success. This process helped align the master planning and architecture to be focused on how learning spaces can be reimagined instead of relying on conventional school methods. The main design partners for this project consisted of Eskew Dumas Ripple, Marlon Blackwell Architects, and Andrew Pogon, the project's landscape architects. Through close collaboration, we developed a system where each building was able to focus on primary curriculum of study, while also being mindful to help direct connections to landscape through covered and uncovered outdoor spaces. The organization of the campus buildings drew inspiration from local structures to create a network of learning environments rather than a centralized institution commonly found. This approach allowed for a variety of unique and interconnected spaces. The classroom buildings are organized and scaled along the edges of the campus, while the two larger buildings, the performance building and the home buildings, held the corners. This organization supports collaboration, flexibility, and importantly, visibility across all learning spaces. As mentioned earlier, each building program focuses on a primary learning type, as we'll highlight here shortly. Together, however, they form one large classroom, a campus with no fences, where learning happens internally and externally. We'll start first with the home building, designed by Eskew Dumas Ripple, which supports daily life and gathering on the campus. The home building features spaces such as the campus library, cafeteria, and cooking classes where students can learn and enjoy shared meals together. Next is the Reels building. Designed by MBA, its primary focus was on art and the film and filmmaking and other creative avenues. The building itself, which also houses the campus administration functions, converts to a movie screen where films created by students are projected and experienced by both the students and the broader community. These types of ideas helped inform the geometry of the building, enhancing spaces that are typically dull in schools to spaces that are well lit and enjoyable to be in. The performance building supports assemblies, presentations, and shared events for the entire school community. Designed for everyday use and formal gatherings, it functions as a civic space within the campus, and with a 300-foot-long loggia, it creates outdoor event space and again welcomes the broader community into the campus. The Wills building reflects the school's emphasis on mobility, movement, and as part of the learning that is shaped by the strong mountain biking community of Northwest Arkansas. Wills supports cycling, robotics, repairs, and hands-on experimentation, blurring the line between infrastructure, workshop, and classroom. And lastly, the Bike Barn, which serves as an active hub for movement and sports on campus with a bike park and multiple fields along its perimeter. The building functions as an extension of outdoor activity and reflects the school's emphasis on health and participation. In result, the Thaden campus is a place for students to be active, play sports, learn hands-on techniques, and gather together, providing a balance of education that ignites passion for discovery and learning. And now with that, I'll pass the mic over to Michael Davis to show you more of an upcoming project, Greenfield Farm, a radical transformation of an existing landscape.
All right. Thanks, Spencer. I'm happy to be here to talk about this project that's been under development for about 2 years in our office so far. So the Greenfield Farm Writers Residency is a retreat style residency celebrating Mississippi's land, history, and culture. Developed by the University of Mississippi and the Mississippi Lab, the project will be the first significant infrastructure investment our nation makes to grow and amplify the power of Mississippi narratives to make positive American change. The project is located on the remaining 20 acres of the farm once owned by acclaimed author William Faulkner, which he purchased in 1938 after selling the movie rights to one of his novels. He then ran the 362-acre property as a working farm and a creative sanctuary that deeply shaped his later work. The site is located halfway between New Albany, William Faulkner's birthplace, and Oxford, Mississippi, where he lived for most of his life. At Greenfield Farm, Faulkner immersed himself in rural life. Farmers here raised mules and grew cotton and corn, and his experiences here influenced the characters, settings, and events of his later writings. However, time has transformed this place. What was once cleared farmland has now begun to be reclaimed as a series of natural Mississippi landscapes. And we worked closely with the university and native habitats, our landscape architects, and embarked on a 6-month process at the beginning of the design to develop a cultural landscape study to guide the development of the site, both now and in the future. The conclusion reached was that this is a landscape in need of restoration and regeneration, not back to the farm, but as an example of a native Mississippi landscape. This process led to the development of a master plan, which located the residency to the center of the site. The program for the residency consists of a new gathering building, 4 writer residences, an on-site residence for the residency manager, and 2 day-use studios, as well as the first of a series of paths and trails that will allow for the site to be explored and experienced. The day-use studios will give new life to 2 existing structures, the corn crib, which is one of the remaining structures on the farm, and the Will D. Campbell cabin, a log cabin which will be moved from Mount Juliet, Tennessee to the site. And as we developed the new structures, a central concept emerged during the design, which was that of ingenuity and efficiency, culminating in the development of a truss geometry that could be shared between the 3 new structures. This truss is deployed in various ways to shape the interior space and define the figures of the buildings. And we also looked to rural typologies for inspiration. For the gathering building, the topology of the barn served as the starting point, including the barn that once stood at Greenfield Farm. The gathering shed, as it became known during design, is located centrally along the drive, and its sloping roof and simple form recalls the barns that inspired it. As a counterpoint to the sloping roof, a series of monitors bring in light deep into the central spaces. The use of biophilic pattern corrugated metal and stained wood siding further the rural typology narrative, connecting these new structures to the farm vernacular, as well as drawing inspiration from the landscape itself. The truss geometry is utilized in an inverted configuration to shape the space of the main gathering area. This space will be utilized as a space of gathering and community for the writers. And it also contains a library for their use while in residence. Placed along the gently sloping portion of the site, the building gestures towards the wooded wetland that now exists at the location of the former farm pond and becomes a welcoming beacon as night falls on the residency. The writer residences were inspired by the rural farmhouses of Mississippi, specifically how their exterior space is created within the form and how they could potentially be hybridized and combined. This led to the development of what became known as the Shot Trot, a small residence for the writers with 2 distinct outdoor spaces, a front porch and a dog trot. The front porch is a carve, the space created by the cantilevering trusses. Stained wood of various tones drawn from the Mississippi soil is utilized to painterly mark the entry to each structure. And the plan is configured as a shotgun layout, but utilizes a dog trot to separate the studio space from the main residence, creating a separation between the living and working spaces, which was a crucial requirement that came directly from the stakeholder group of writers that we worked with. And the studios are directed out to the landscape. Salvaged paint blue beadboard from the main house, the home of Faulkner's brother, will be utilized as the ceilings in these spaces. The truss geometry here is as a strangely familiar figure, an elongated gable that stretches out over the dog trot and studio. and out to the landscape beyond. Construction on this project is anticipated to begin in Q2 of this year. And now I'm going to hand it back over to Ati to talk more about a project that is closer to home.
Thank you, Michael. Now we want to take a look at our new project under construction, an orthopedic micro hospital we like to call Radical Hospitality. The UMS Orthopedic and Sports Performance Center sits on 30-acre meadow just off Interstate 49 in Springdale, Arkansas. Rather than asserting itself as a vertical object, the building walks and conform into the existing topography, low, horizontal, and shaped by the site. From the beginning, we saw this as an opportunity to design a medical facility that supports healing and recovery with a hospitality focus by engaging itself closely to nature. From the primary entrance on the lower level, you can see the plan. Visitors rise up to the second level at central courtyard that anchors the plan. Each of the program department, like clinic, rehabs, and surgery, have direct visual access into this tranquil and calming space. Circulation for patients and providers are visually connected but maintain a clear separations for efficiency and hygienic control. Shaped through ongoing dialogue with the larger user group of surgeons, nurses, therapists, patients, and more, operational realities and lived experience inform decision at every scale, from adjacencies to moments of rest for caregivers. Arrival is often the most tedious moment in a medical visit, where the transactional act of checking in and checking out is hurried through. We wanted this first touch with the being moments of arrival to be much more than utility. We prioritize art and beauty, calm and comfort, and light, natural light, of course, by establishing hospitality forward gestures. By bringing in natural light, nature and greenery, furniture and furnishings that evoke the comfort and feeling of home, colors and textures that remind us that we are arriving at a nice hotel lobby or even your living room, would be more hospitable and less hospitable. We develop a visual language of soft radius corners, rich materials, and clear forms. Interior spaces focus on providing comfort, beauty, and light of art and nature for wellness. By mixing materials, textures, and colors, we have choreographed vignettes of spaces and places to pause. The wood-clad staircase leads visitors up its inviting form, bathed in natural light and landscape of the central courtyard. The courtyard is the vibrant center of life in the building, creating a sense of wellness and health throughout its tranquil planting and design. As I'll show you more in a moment, we link each of the patient and public space directly to this courtyard. After emerging from the stair by the courtyard, visitors flow into this gracious waiting room. Letting light in from above creates intuitive cues that reduce stresses and combined with curated artwork, mixtures of colors and textures, allowing for views into the courtyard and the landscapes beyond. These are some of the strategies that we use to bring the idea of hospitality for the hospital. Every patient recovery room is directly connected to the courtyard with a refreshing view of light and nature. During programming, we learned that both providers and staff that they work best when they can observe the passage of time. So we ensure that in addition to the patient rooms, every waiting area, nurses station, and even the operating room and recovery room have access to daylight and views. This was both humane and practical. Patients recover more quickly with connection to nature, staff's stress level are reduced with access to daylight, and providers perform better when in an environment that they want to be in. During operation, for example, that can take many hours, they are energized by seeing the outdoors, a welcome visual link not present in most technical, sterile, and windowless operating room. We try to bring life and work outside as much as possible. The PT gym is a great opportunity on this site. Like many spaces throughout the building, the sports performance gym is continually linked to nature through generous windows, clear stories, roof monitors. It also has a large opening that connects the indoor training space directly to the outdoor performing fields so that the work of training and care can flow seamlessly from the inside to out. The site work is happening right now as you see in this construction photo. The design complements the natural topography. Extensive studies and refinement ensure that earthwork was completely balanced on site with no fill imported, and no cut removed. Here you can see the beginning of benching of the site to create paths for the site circulation, parking tiers with future bioswales and the emerging building. We are now largely complete with the concrete and moving through the steel erection. As the steel frame emerges, the organization and scale of the building is starting to become legible in the landscape. The long horizontal structure will sit lightly on the site and integrate into the rolling hill. I think the next slide will be Marlon.
Thanks, Ati. And speaking of the whole person and whole health, the Heartland Whole Health Institute offers a way of understanding place, how architecture can emerge from culture, landscape, material, and craft. The Heartland Whole Health Institute supports research, teaching, and community engagement focused on whole person health for the individuals in charge really of their own journey through health with their doctors and such. From the outset, the project asked how architecture might contribute to calm, focus, care, and healing. Located on the campus of the Crystal Ridges Museum of American Art, the building is part of a growing art campus evolving into a broader health and education district. Anchored by Crystal Bridges, the Alice L. Walton School of Medicine, and Art Park, the campus parking, this convergence of art, nature, architecture, and wellness is reflected in the building's siding, open, connected, and always accessible to the public. The building is composed of a series of low connected volumes lifted gently above the ground plane, drawing inspiration from the Ozark topography of hills and valleys. This creates a very porous arrangement, more like a natural dog trot, where porches, decks, and open passages allow people to flow easily through the building, reinforcing horizontality, clarity, connectivity, and a sense of ease on arrival. Arrival is gradual and welcoming, guided by the landscape and a series of layered thresholds. The ground floor is open to the public. It's essentially an art museum with various event spaces and programming for the schools and museum, and supports shared programming with both, and prioritizing approachability and orientation over monumentality. Now, the Ozarks are defined by karst geology and dense forest cover, with nearly 60% of the region wooded in hardwood forest. These conditions shaped our material thinking, guiding choices that feel grounded, durable, and deeply connected to the place itself. Material choices are central to the project and to our interpretation of local craft. By modernizing the local Ozark tradition of fieldstone cladding, the building is grounded both figuratively and literally. Locally sourced giraffe stone provides texture, warmth, and permanence, shaping how the building is experienced and understood as part of the material culture of this place. Below, the building reads as a cave, anchored by stone and weight, and above, pre-weathered brass fins create a permeable edge with beveled profiles that filter light, allowing it to enter gradually and recall the experience of moving through a wooded landscape. Material details reinforce the connection to place while elevating craft through careful study and testing. Full-scale mock-ups were used to refine construction, detailing, and connections, ensuring the materials perform well and feel right at the human scale. And the building is lifted so the landscape can pass beneath it, reinforcing continuity between the ground and structure. The whole upper structure is suspended from a roof truss above. The architecture allows light, air, and movement to flow through, while fins establish a measured rhythm and form porch spaces that connect inside and outside. Planting and building were designed to mature together, anticipating growth, weathering, and seasonal change. Windows, courtyards, and outdoor views are integral to the interior experience, keeping the landscape constantly present and a sense of calm and grounding. The plan is organized around movement and gathering, with the dog trot structuring the primary entry sequence. Public, shared, and private programs are arranged in a clear gradient, while rounded room corners soften transitions and support a sense of ease throughout. The dog trot welcomes you in. Circulation spaces are generous and legible, supporting intuitive movement through the building, while outward views maintain orientation and strengthen the connection to the surrounding landscape. In a sense, things just flow.
As you enter the lobby, you're welcomed by the materials themselves, like travertine stone floors, Venetian plaster walls ground the space, while sculptural ceiling crafted from the local pecan wood reinterpret the Arkansas forest canopy, introducing softness and care and bringing the qualities of both the cave and the forest into the interiors. The interior palette draws inspiration from this beautiful painting that's owned by the Christie Bridges Museum of American Art collection called Kindred Spirit by Asher B. Durant. The painting's muted colors and layered depth inform the building's use of color and pattern, shaping an atmosphere that feels calm, grounded, and connected to the natural world. Materials such as travertine floors, locally sourced pecan ceiling, lime-based plaster, quartz surfaces, and unlacquered brass are used consistently throughout the interior to support continuity and ease. Natural wool carpets and upholstered furnishings add familiarity and comfort to the workplace. Each material was selected for warmth, tactility, and longevity, with emphasis on natural and renewable qualities. Like our approach in the plan, curved surfaces and layered ceilings soften the scale and help large spaces feel approachable and human. Circulation areas become places to pause and linger, encouraging the building to be experienced slowly through a journey rather than all at once. Public-facing spaces welcome visitors, remaining closely connected to the daily activity. Research, learning, and community overlap visibly, reinforcing openness and a shared sense of purpose. Movement through the building is clear and expressive, anchored by the main stair. Vertical circulation is treated as part of the spatial experience, supporting orientation and connection rather than being hidden away. Access to light and views was our guiding priority, which is why there are no corner offices. Offices are pulled away from the perimeter, so daylight and views are shared equally by everyone that walk or visit the place, while the second floor offices overlook collaborative areas below, supporting connection, visibility, and focused work at the same time. And as part of the wellness, as part of wellness and a moment of pause, we design a publicly accessible meditation space that brings in light from above and graces the curved surface of the space. It is a moment of calm and contemplation. The plaster wall absorbs sound, soften edges, bringing in the light naturally, and the carved room feels muted, gentle, and still like a vertical cave, a good place to go when you need a moment of calm in your day. Architecture, interiors, and landscape are conceived as a single continuous system. Porches and thresholds create gentle transitions between the inside and the outside and supporting a layered experience that moves naturally between enclosure and openness.
It really allows the folks there to follow the light, though they work in 27 different places throughout the building. So moving from inward stillness to places of gathering, this project really establishes how architecture can become an active part of well-being. So from here, we move across the street to a project that similarly rethinks everyday infrastructure as civic space. This leads us into the Art Park, a radical take on the parking structure. So serving as a parking structure for the Crystal Bridges Museum campus, it becomes an opportunity to contribute to public life, the larger cultural landscape, as well as this whole issue about art. The building sits at a point of convergence, acting as both a connector and destination within the city and the campus. We asked what more could a parking garage be, whether it might participate in the discourse of art, and imagine it as a large proscenium where art and performance could interface directly with the adjacent Convergence Plaza designed by studio Brian Haynes. The section reveals the building's true logic, where circulation assembly and infrastructure are carefully interwoven into a singular architectural system. Fins and openings modulate scale and light, and breaking down the mass while maintaining clarity and order. This diagram makes the argument clear. Parking supports culture rather than the other way around. The cafe, shop, and restrooms filter vertical movement from the garage to the plaza, while the sky terrace above offers an open, flexible space with endless opportunities for public life, events, and engagement. Convergence Plaza also serves as a gateway to movement and play, connecting directly to the shuttle system, regional trail network, and a public splash and play zone. Together, these elements extend the plaza's role beyond a destination, linking culture, recreation, and everyday life, and of course, art. It really has become a great central gathering place for the campus. The plaza serves as both an arrival and departure point, a place of common ground and transition that extends naturally into the underbelly of the parking garage. Material continuity keeps the experience cohesive, even as programs shift. The structure remains legible, allowing people to understand how the building works as they move through it. The Art Park Cafe and bar operate as a lively in-between, fully open to the plaza. We also saw an opportunity to use color to connect the building to everyday culture, drawing from the saturated tones found in automotive body paint, specifically my grandmother's 1965 Pontiac Tempest you see up on the right. It becomes a bold, unmistakable gesture of welcome, an energetic first signal that you've arrived at the campus in someplace special and concerned too about art. Here, the lighting becomes a form of art in itself. The jelly jar lights scatter across the structure like fireflies, giving the building a soft, animated presence and a true garage experience. At night, the building reads as active infrastructure, animated by light and use rather than hidden away. Together, these projects argue for architecture that is grounded, civic, and humane, where material, landscape, and experience are inseparable. And with that, I'd like to say thank you to everybody for our opportunity to share this with you, and I'll turn this over to Matt. I think he has a few questions.
Well, thanks,
Thank you.
Marlon, and Ati, and everyone at Marlon Blackwell Architects. A great presentation. Thank you for walking us through all of that. It's just an amazing body of work and so many different cool contexts that you're working in. And so thank you for that very comprehensive presentation. It's also, amazing to me to see, and having heard you speak about it before too, all of this work is very much rooted in kind of modern design principles, contemporary architecture. And so you're definitely rigorously engaging with that culture, which we all know of as a kind of universal architecture culture that is applicable everywhere. But at the same time, you're not working in urban centers as much as some other architects might be. You're not engaging with those questions as much. You're engaging with questions more in rural environments, small towns, and places that might in some ways resist these, universal design principles that might be seen as, international almost. So how do you reconcile kind of the local and the global? How do you, work in these contexts while still maintaining some of these principles that maybe you learned in school or that you hold dear to your heart because they're professional, disciplinary questions of architecture? And how do you modulate those for these local environments? Are you or are you not a regionalist?
We're not.
No, I would say we're localists.
I think, yeah.
I was going to say we're just interested in this kind of productive tension between the local and the global, right? So that we jokingly say that, but that's really what we're after. We're trying to work through the material culture of the places that we operate in, to understand, what each place has to give in that way. They're also typologically, there are vernacular types that we gently transgress. We like to begin there, but we never try to end there. And you saw a little bit of that today with porches and dog trots and shotguns and things of that nature. But we also are, very concerned with language and grammar and how we mix our understanding of an international language with something that's more local that we can pull from, so to speak. And so we're mixing those things together. And this idea of the strangely familiar is really important to build the advocacy and the acceptance of the work in these, like you say, non-urban places. A lot of places we work in, even if they're in a town, we call it urban pastoral in a way. The other aspect of what we're having to do, we don't get a lot of infill projects. So a lot of our projects have to be conceived and developed in the round against the horizon. And so the figure and that level of expressive character really comes from understanding it in the round rather than just frontally. But I
would say
I
that
went on too long.
No, I think it's the question of are we a regionalist? I think it's that label of being a regionalist is given to anyone outside of the major cities or major coast. So if you're doing work of significant architecturally, somewhere in the middle or somewhere outside of those centers, you are immediately labeled, I think, regional. It's like in a way, like when you're working in the middle of or in the heartland, like you have to have some sort of context or reference to the places that you work at. Like even when we're doing work, let's say in Central Africa, for example, we can't just import our look and drop it there, right? We have to understand the climate, the culture, the local material availability, the construction technique. So it's like, is that a regional approach? I think it's an approach that is universal. So in some way, I feel like it's sort of like it's time to retire, the overuse of the word regional towards architects that are not working outside of the major cities or the coastal major coast, I think.
You struck a
So
nerve.
that was one. Number two, I
You
think there's two questions.
What was it? What was it? Oh, what was the other?
The other one is like, isn't there the things that you learn in school or your approach in architecture, like in a place that are smaller or whatever? Like, is that something that's easy for you to do, or is that like more accepted? I think that at least for our region, because we didn't have a really strong identifiable architectural culture in Northwest Arkansas. I think it's not like New Orleans, for example, or Boston, where New Orleans has its own kind of like cultural architecture in some ways. That's, the balcony, the French, like all of that. Or like Boston, where you're building out of masonry. So here, anything is possible. You could build with stone, you could build with metal, because in terms of context, it's not that overwhelming direction that you need to conform in some ways, because it's still architecture as a culture in our area is still in the making, I think.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more accepting. Like working with clients, like you can propose a lot more stuff to them or ideas, and I think they're a lot more accepting than someone who maybe are familiar with certain type of look or style even, or material, culture, that kind of thing. Is that too long, my answer?
No, that's great. That was great. Perfect. Oh, we lost his.
Sorry, you
Yeah,
you mentioned that a lot of this kind of reconciliation between, more universal systems and these contexts is somewhat about kind of building, I don't want to say consensus, but kind of getting people on board with these ideas, right? And so what are some of the things you've learned over the years about how people in general have responded to your architecture, both negatively and positively. What techniques have worked in kind of bridging that gap or appealing to people in these places, where maybe some of these ideas are new and some things are familiar, and how do you kind of, yeah, what are some of the things that have helped you get people on board?
Yeah, that's a great question. I had the answer or an answer, and then I lost it in the
In the thinking?
in the thinking. Yeah,
I
part
could
of
say that, we have this thing where we say, listen carefully and act boldly. A lot of stuff that we produce in our architecture is a direct response to what we hear from them. So as long as they know, like you hear them talking or they're giving you clues and all that, you listen and then you act boldly. So I think for us, it's about making them know that they're the one who's coming in with these ideas and we are actually just enhancing that and forming it
they're
into
They're
architecture.
part authors.
So they're part of the author. We don't
One-
enforce our thing to them. It's really about listening and
What we
coming
don't
up
lead
together
with
with
that.
this.
Yeah, what we lead with is what does it do rather than what does it look like. And so we feel strongly that if we've listened carefully, then we propose things that starts to satisfy their needs and really starts to open up new possibilities as well within the framework in which we're working with them. So there is this sort of shared authorship in a lot of ways that we're partners. We'd like to tell clients when we work with them, we're a partner. We are partners together in this journey. Getting that kind of engagement, I think, is really important. It's really difficult to work with clients that are not engaged in that regard. So we kind of depend on that. We also use references that we know they probably have seen or are familiar with in the area, or at least typologically understand. And so again, we use those as touchstones, and then we demonstrate how that we've interpreted that in a more sort of creative and hopefully useful way. I think that's really important. A lot of the clients we work with, and especially when we started, a lot of them hadn't really worked with architects, and they didn't know what they wanted, but they knew what they didn't want, which was what everybody else had. And that was a great place to start, right? And so that really opened up possibilities of how we could begin to work with them. And that has been proven to work pretty well, I think, for us. And then the other aspect of it is material and demonstrating that the details, a lot of the details that we're doing are not beyond what the workforce, the makers here in our area can do. In fact, we're often involving them early. And that also brings a certain degree of confidence from the clients, right? That we're working together with the builders, with the makers, and we're not making something that's complicated, right? Maybe sometimes complex, but not complicated.
That's interesting. It reminds me of that time that we were touring St. Nicholas Chapel, and you had to take a few minutes to try to convince them to do an addition.
Yes.
You
Yes.
took
Yes.
very good care to.
Yeah. Instead of destroying the facade of the building to expand. Yeah. And that's something that, we did work with them on for months in a pro bono kind of way, just to kind of demonstrate our commitment to the project and how they could do it while preserving something really unique, and just kind of getting them on board to understand what an amazing gift they have that they're sharing every day with folks that are coming by the church, and also members of the church. And we eventually sold that, but in the end, they decided not to expand, and so they may sell. Hopefully, we may become the owners of a church. Who knows? So, stay tuned.
Well, that also reminds me a bit of like, as you have started to do bigger projects, how have you sort of maintained that level of craft, that level of material investigation, and the kind of legibility, the weirdness, all of these qualities that are so prevalent in a project like St. Nicholas. How have you navigated that as you've grown in scale?
That's a great question.
We've grown in scale, but not grown in the size of the studio.
No, he's talking about growing in scale.
That I think like the scale can grow, but the studio remains the size that we feel comfortable where we can be really engaged in all the project and working directly with all the project team, particularly the leadership, like the project managers
Yeah.
and them. Because, our involvement is throughout. Like if a project takes 5 years to design, because
Or
a lot of our projects do
concept
take,
to
yeah,
build,
we're there.
get it built.
And we know at every instance, like what's happening, what's going on, we're in touch. So in a way, the way we design our firm or business size is conducive to that. Like we don't think that we'll ever want to be 100 people. I think the maximum we'll want to be to remain consistent. And, with that level of rigor is to keep, at least for us, like 35 max or something like that.
Yeah, but I think another aspect of that that helps, and I learned this from teaching, it's great to go into a studio with a brief problem, and then present it to the students, 15 students. And I always marvel at, 15 different ways to solve a problem, right? There's no like one way. And you're working with students to help them realize the potential in their schemes. Well, the same thing here in the office is that we try to develop a framework for each project that everybody can participate in and introduce ideas, right? And I think Curtis mentioned that earlier. If it's a good idea, we're going to use it. I don't really care where it comes from, right? And so there is a sense of investment and authorship with folks that are working on this. And we get some great ideas from our team, who understand how we're working and then how to contribute. So, and I think the other thing is there is just basic fundamentals around scale and proportion and things that we insist on, no matter how large the project is or how small it is. And then some very clear logics, material logics that help facilitate or help the reading of the form. That's really important too. So there are just things that we've developed and language I don't think we'd necessarily repeat, but we love the beauty of questions and asking the question, how might it be otherwise? One of the things we learned from Faye Jones as well as from Glenn Murcutt, similar questions. Asking them how did they maintain such consistent body of work over a long period of time? Didn't matter the size or the scale, and they both answered it similarly. Said, start the firm the way you want to end it. There are no shortcuts and no bread and butter. Every project has to be just as important as the next, even if it's a $100 a square foot church, as you mentioned, or some museum quality building like the Whole Health Institute. They're just as important, and that's a core value.
And I think I want to add too, it's like we have. I know you see us, but it's like you also see some of our senior associate here. But we have a lot of like people associate and our senior designers and architects that has been here for a long time. So we don't have a lot of turnover. So in a way that they have understood and learned sort of the ethos and the sensibility and how the processes to do work. So like we fully trusted them because they've been here a long time. Like and they in turn like can teach the people under them. So the level of production that is produced out of here may be design or CDs or CAs. It's like it's coming from everyone here. So it's
and everybody understands that those core values that Curtis was talking about, and the idea that we're all working on a meta project. So there isn't any project that we're working on that doesn't contribute to the larger project of the office. And that's really key, because I think if folks understand that through a kind of transparency about why we do what we do, then I think we get better investment from the folks within the firm. Again, a sense of belonging and authorship in the projects that we're working on. And that's from conceptualization all the way to realization. Currently have 12 projects under construction right now. How to maintain that kind of consistency without the death by 1,000 cuts that often happen in the construction phase is critical. And we have amazing folks that understand
Mhm.
the need to do that and when to communicate with IT&I and when to make their own decisions.
And I also want to say that everyone here are first and foremost designers. So we don't structure our office where like we have a design group and they design and they hand off to the production group. And then the production group will finish the CDs or the detailing and then hand it to the CA. Like everyone here can be designing, producing, and construction admin, all projects. So in a way, like that whole design understanding, like, because sometimes things has to change, like at site, for example, or like in the middle of CDs, they know what to look out for, so everyone is looking through the lens of designers. So all of us are designers. So even though you might be working a lot more as a site person, but looking through that lens, you understand like, okay, you can't just put like a thing over your corner, like a corner guard, without spoiling the whole look that we were going after. Just even little things like that. I think they all, again, I think it goes back to the idea that most people who's been here a long time. So whenever they're in leadership position, they have been here at least 5 years, 15, 10 years, so they understand the whole process.
Yeah, it sounds like an amazing culture you've built. I guess I'm going to move on to some of the audience questions because they're actually related to this. A couple quick ones, I think. And I want to invite the audience too to drop questions in there. We can try to get through all of them. A quick one: how many project teams do you have in your office?
How many projects do you have?
I don't know.
How many project teams?
20 project teams, I would say 5.
No,
How many project teams?
So just, we have 20 projects
That-
and each one has a different project team. So we have 20 people across 20 projects. And they
Yeah.
all-
20
people, 20
across 20
projects.
projects.
There's a project team for each, so there is some overlap. But we try not to have folks working on more than two teams, two to
projects,
two to
two
three
active
max.
projects,
Yeah,
yeah.
active.
I have them on the same PM all the time. So-
Yeah, different PMs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shifting a little bit to the area, I think around Bentonville and Fayetteville, I think it's testament a bit to the area that our audience seems very interested in what's going on around there, and I think the perfect person to answer some of these questions. So, could you quickly run through the difference between Fayetteville and Bentonville? What distinguishes them and what unites them?
Sure. I think Fayetteville traditionally, it's the home of the flagship university for the state since 1877, the University of Arkansas. And so that's created, in its own sense, a kind of a more of a center of culture, a bit more diversity in the population, right? There's probably more planned growth. It's a bit more mindful. It has a longer history. It's also the only town in Northwest Arkansas built on hills. All the rest are built in valleys. And we're just outside Tornado Alley. So I'm happy to say we've never had a recorded tornado in Fayetteville. But things have shifted, I think, as Walmart has grown as a world leader in retail and business. Bentonville, and I think the decision by the families there to invest in Bentonville and to really grow it. There's obviously in competition with Amazon for talent. So Bentonville has really been an investment to increase the quality of life, the hospitality, culture, the arts, all of that. And so what's I think started to happen is it's why we say Northwest Arkansas, because Bentonville and Fayetteville have their own character. Ours, we say keep Fayetteville funky, right? And Bentonville is sort of is a bit more refined in a way.
It's more
business.
of a corporate town. It started like it's a center of business, more of a corporate culture. So a lot more people, executive. Like Fayetteville is more student based, more young people, faculty. So more about ideas and a little bit more funky. There's a lot of also like residual hippie culture there's a lot of, that community back in the 70s that that are still here and raising their children and all that. So I think there's that distinct education versus a commerce culture.
Or agriculture, because there was
Yeah,
you think of
agriculture.
Springdale is, then you have
Yeah.
the Tyson, the
Yeah,
tree
chicken
industry.
and all that.
So they all kind of complement each
Yeah.
other. I mean, one is more, Springdale's probably more blue collar. Rogers is much more business oriented.
Yeah.
So they all kind of come together as one
Yeah.
larger entity, I believe. I don't know if that answers the question or not.
Yeah, it definitely does. And kind of thinking about that area, like it's a bit of a spicy one from the audience here, but how do you reconcile the idea of architecture as public good with working for powerful private institutions that heavily shape the region? A very contemporary question that I think applies in a lot of
I
places.
think that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we operate in a condition of awareness here, right? I mean, it's we're not interested so much in prophecy here in terms of what we're doing, and I think they're also very mindful of that as well. So a lot of the institutional work that we're doing, just like, for example, the Thaden School, that's an index tuition school. That means it's set up so that anybody can go. It's all based on your family income. So some people pay $500 a year. Some folks pay $25,000 a year. So it's set up to make it available to all. I think that's been a kind of esprit de corps of a lot of the families here, is to open things up and make things free, make things accessible. That's really important to us, right? We're not kind of working for the kind of closed off and then the kind of mysterious thing. A lot of the institutions that are being generated are very concerned with transparency and being mission driven and missions that we certainly can align with. For example, whole health, kind of rethinking the healthcare system in the U.S. I mean, basically what we have is a sick care system right now. So how would you think about that? Here's an institution dedicated to that.
And I think in general,
I was just saying, I don't think we really have a problem.
yeah, well,
that
no,
much.
I do have a problem with the whole, but it's sort of like everywhere, right? America is all made up by corporation or mom and pop. Like it's something that we can't fight alone. So what are the things that we can do in order to make it better for our community? So we talked about giving back to the community and also looking at some of the good things that we were able to gain from the wealth that were generated by this. It's like before you have to fly to New York to go look at art, or Chicago being the closest. But now knowing that every little kid from a rural area can get in a bus, their school bus, to go look at art, and that is transformative for them. Yeah. So that's a few things that we kind of benefit in a way in the whole health initiative. There's still a lot of issues, but I don't, we fight and go fight every day like everybody else. I think,
Why don't you take Columbus? You're
Yeah.
familiar with Columbus, Indiana. That's a company town run by Cummins Engines for the most part. But look what they've been able to achieve architecturally, civic space. Again, it's a really strong sense of community. If you go there, they live, breathe public life, design, all of that. How is that bad? Right. And so that's been enculturated over time. The same thing is happening here. I would say we're a bit behind, but it's just something that's happened within the last, say, 15, 20 years. But it's rather young. But we're happy to be part of that and to help demonstrate the role of design in addressing present day issues and problems, but also increasing fundamental civic dignity in towns that usually no one would think about that this would ever even be possible to exist or care about. And I think it's really important that this investment in the rural and in these smaller towns with design, I can't argue with it. It's
I
one of the
think
reasons that
bottom line is the whole issue with corporate is not just, with Walmart. Maybe that's their biggest, because they're the biggest corporation in America, maybe, that employ a lot of people. Maybe even to talk about Main Street being dead because of Walmart, but I feel like that happens everywhere in America. It's unfortunate. I think the whole culture is changing. It's not just by this company. It's all the big corporation. In fact, I even think about my small business as an architect versus a larger firm, that comes in and they can get anything and everything. So it's like in a way that is permeates every corporate firm here, like that can come in any town and they get the most, cultural institution and that kind of stuff. So it's like, so this sort of commentary is permeating our whole life in the United States. So it's not just here. It's
The
everywhere.
key to it is what is the role of authenticity in all of that? Is everything store bought, or can things be bottom up, and really come from a place and make connections to places that are real and lived. And I think that's what we're after, no matter where we work, whether it's Detroit, Houston, we just finished project, Memphis, it's all available.
Yeah, that's a nice, kind of transition to this will have to be our last question.
Sure.
Where do you find inspiration and unique ways to look at the new projects, and how do you translate and cultivate inspiration with your team? And I'm thinking partly about the St. Nicholas Church as a good example of this, with the kind of reusing a garage and then reusing found objects in the
That
dome.
satellite dish, yeah.
Yeah, and the kind of unique approach to that problem, to a unique project too.
Well, I mean, as we try to hopefully illuminate today, is we're really inspired by the sort of wonder of our place, or any place that we're in, whether it's geological, biological, or cultural. I mean, it's all there. It's already there. It's just for us to kind of interpolate and bring forward in a particular architectural situation that we might be given. So we're just inspired by the process itself, right? But trying to find ways to, make commentary, but at the same time to demonstrate how that commentary is useful in and on the problems that we're kind of, or trying to address, in the design process. So I think inspiration for me has always come from, the site, from nature, but also that intersection between what's nature made and culture made. We're always looking for the patterns that connect those two conditions. And I think we do just find wonderfully strange things. And there's, I like being in the underbelly of places and getting below the surface. I think you have to do it, puts you into some dicey places sometimes, but I think immersion is really good, because it's hard to how do you say, design out of nothing. Your imagination, use your imagination. You have to fill your imaginations with travel, experiences, reading, making things, but being attentive to your place. That's where it comes from. I don't think it can be a kind of simulated deal. So it has to come I think it has to come from the bottom up.
Yeah. Well, I think that's an amazing way to end today, unless either of you have any final thoughts.
I don't know. I think what you got to, do you have, I ended on that one. No, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Well, I'll
Well,
turn it
I'm
back over
good,
to Anne
and I
then.
think we're all good. So
Thank you,
Indeed,
everyone.
we are. On behalf
you.
of the Architectural League, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. And Marlon and Ati, this has been an almost 30-year dialogue we've been having with you and your work from your first Emerging Voices lecture.
that's right. I
30 years
remember it
ago.
well.
And with the Honey House and other projects. And for those of you in the New York City area or planning a visit to the New York City area, please join us. And then please join us at our upcoming in-person after hours at Bernheimer, and Once Future next month, at Studio Gang in March, at Pentagram with Eddie in April, and finally in May with So Ill. So it's been great having you today, and this has been recorded, so anyone who wants to reference the presentation at a later date or pass it along, we'll have a video up soon.
Great.
So
And I'd
thanks.
say, come visit us in Arkansas. That would be my
Yes.
Come visit us. We'd love to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.